What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm going to break down another catalyst that's coming out for the markets as we have new news, not to mention new pieces of data over the next couple of hours, not to mention some new developments on these charts, which I will be talking about. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total, and the offer ends very soon at the end of March. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So, looking at SPY, we're going to gap down upon open, but we have to see if we can reclaim our 200 EMA to try to get some kind of bounce or not. If we can't, this might just push and start to continue to fall, especially as we have another gap to fill at 584. So I'll talk more about that gap below and more factors like that. But let's first talk about this. So as a reminder, okay, there's been a lot of stuff that happened over the weekend. Donald Trump has imposed tariffs on China, Mexico, and Canada. And this is very important because it is leading to some concerns, at least for the short term, involving our GDP, inflation, and factors just like that. Now, Trump is arguing it's worth it for the long term. We'll see about that. But just know that as a result of this, Canada have announced that they're also increasing tariffs on the US by 25% for many different products, about $100 billion worth. And then as time goes on, Mexico are saying that they may do the same thing. So we'll see about how all of this goes. Trump also mentioned that he wants to do the same thing to Europe and many EU countries to increase tariffs once again. So that's very important. But the big update I have for you is this right here. Today, Donald Trump is going to be speaking with officials from Canada and Mexico about the tariffs. And we'll see if there's any new updates that come from this, if they negotiate on different deals or if anything else happens. There could be more updates that affect the markets. So just get ready just to be safe. Donald Trump also mentioned, I think, last night that he wants to do the same thing to Europe. So if he starts talking more about Europe, raising tariffs on the UK, for example, he did mention that yesterday, that could also cause some volatility. So I would say just expect some volatility in the markets. As of right now, there's weakness unless we try to reclaim this resistance. So we'll see how it goes. But for now, just know that these pieces of news will cause a lot of volatility. Don't forget that today is Monday at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI report. Then at 10 a.m. we have the ISM Manufacturing PMI, employment, new orders, and prices. Watch for some volatility upon this data release. So at 9:45 a.m. and 10 a.m. we have the ISM Manufacturing numbers. Look for some volatility for now. The fear and greed index is currently at neutral. It's going to get very close to fear once we open. And I think there's going to be more fear building the market for now. So just get ready for that fear. And then finally, I just want to add that after market close, we have Palantir and a couple of earnings coming out. Things get very serious on Tuesday and Thursday as we have like AMD, Amazon, many more. But anyways, let's talk about the charts. So what's happening to SPY and the others? As a reminder, when you zoom out of SPY and go to the daily chart, there's a big gap to fill down here at 584. There's a chance we dip lower to fill that gap if we can't reclaim one key level. So let's talk about what the levels are. SPY is showing a lot of weakness right here. Okay. We have this resistance at 595. We'll have to see if we try to reclaim this or not. If we reclaim 595, we could attempt to fill this gap back up to about 599 before we see this gap fill. That's one possibility. The second possibility is if we can't get back above 595, this 200 EMA, that is very, very critical. If we can't get back above 595, there's a risk of us rejecting and just continuing to fall back down to fill this gap all the way back down to 584. So are we going to reclaim 595, the 200 EMA, and bounce first before we see a big rejection, or are we just going to continue to fall from here? As of right now, this case looks a bit more probable where SPY kind of struggles a little bit and the fear causes a bit more downside. I favor that a little bit more, but we'll see just to be safe. If SPY loses 590, expect that gap fill for 584. And if we get back up at 595, I'm looking for that gap fill above here. My gut tells me that we kind of push and then, we lose 590 soon. If that's the case, we're looking for that gap fill back down to 584. There's a gap over here. You can't see it on the 4 hour. It shows on the daily chart, the 584 gap on SPY. So that might be getting filled very soon. On the QQQ, this is looking a little bit more resilient. So it's very simple, right? We're going to be looking for an attempt to get close to 515. Might come very close. If we break 515, we're looking for that gap fill back up to about 520. So keep that in mind. That's the more bullish case for us to get a nice recovery. If we break past 515, then we could reject from there. But if we push like this and we hit our 200 EMA at 515.86 and we end up rejecting, we're looking for a dip back down towards 505. So I'll be watching this very closely. Do we push past this red line right here, our 200 EMA at 515, and push to fill this gap and then reject? Or do we do something that's very different where we push to 515 and then we reject from there and start dipping? So I think this is going to push a little higher for like 515. Let's see if we reject or not off of this. The reason why I'm a little bit uncertain is because it also depends on this data that's coming out. But there might be a little rebound on the QQQ. See if we get a rejection off 515. If not, if we break this, we have a gap to fill above. So watch that very closely. On the Russell 2000, we're trying to hold this trend line. So this is like our breakout area. You guys can see it just like this. If this holds, we could attempt to push for essentially 223. If we break 223, we have a gap to fill back up towards 225. And if we reject here, we're going to be turning right back down. So look for 223 right over here. If we break this, we could try to fill this gap, and we'll see if we get a rejection off 225 to make a move back down. And if we can't hold above 223, we're looking for a move right back down towards many of these lower supports, such as like 217.5. So I'll be watching this very, very closely. Look for a small push for 223, and we'll see if we reject. If we do reject, we may slowly ride this trend line down. So just keep that in mind. Looking at ES, it's the same thing as the IWM. We're trying to ride this trend line. We have this resistance, which is now becoming support, and this may continue to fall as time goes on. If we manage to reclaim very close to that 6,000 area, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to about 6,040, which is where our 200 EMA just happens to be. So if we get back above that resistance, we're looking for a small rebound. But if we can't get back above that 6,000 zone, there's going to be a risk of us falling again and just continue to ride this trend line down to downtrend closer to like 5,900 flats if we can't get back above 6,000. So for now, it is looking a little bit more bearish. It is technically favoring that we continue to downtrend, and there is a risk of more sellers that are going to continue to step in because of this fear. So just keep that in mind, guys. I see some weakness on ES and for many futures out there. So just keep that in mind. Looking at NQ, sorry, NQ is right here. Sorry about that, guys. If we manage to reclaim 21,300, so right about here, I think we might be attempting to push for 21,480. If we can't get back above 21,300, there's going to be a risk of us returning to about 21,000 flats. So there is that risk of us falling. Please keep that in mind, guys. I think NQ is still showing signs of weakness. So you want to be very open-minded, at least nonetheless, because of this. So for now, I'm going to be watching to see if we can hold this support or not. I think we're going to attempt to push a little bit upon open, and we'll see if we try to fill this gap or not. Watch 21,300 might get very close to that first before it starts to turn, or if we break that, we might push higher. So we'll have to just see. Bitcoin looks a little bit more bearish. We could be dipping closer to 93,000 again. This could be from kind of like a double top here, which leads to even more downside. So it looks bearish for now. There's a lot of volatility coming in. I'm a little concerned about Nvidia. So Nvidia has support at 115. We got to hold this. If it does not hold this is going to be a risk of dumping to like 112 and 110. So we could be looking for Nvidia to dump even more if we can't hold this key support. It's going to be very crucial that we hold. So watch and see if that ends up being the case, guys. That's going to be very, very huge. But for now, it looks bearish. We got this gap down. Unless you reclaim 117, this is going to likely continue to fall. To be bullish, I want to see it get back above 120. Otherwise, it's going to continue to favor downside for a move just like this. Start dipping to 112 and then 110. Tesla looks weak. We're gapping down on Tesla. If we get back above 394, we could try to fill that gap for 401, but I'm favoring that's going to be dipping to 386. Might dip a little below. That's like the low 380s and try to bounce and shuffle, but it depends. Can we hold above 386 and close above that, or do we close below that? If we close below that, there's going to be a risk of us dumping back down towards like the 370s. So we're watching this 200 EMA. It might be dipping lower, so just keep that in mind, guys. There is that risk, at least thus far, looking at this chart. I still think Tesla's a bit more bearish, maybe dip into the mid to lower 380s, and we'll see how it reacts. For a few more, Apple's looking bearish. We got to get back above 230. Otherwise, this could be dipping to about 226, previous resistance becoming support, and eventually the balance fill to 222. So watch and see if 230 holds. Coin is looking a little bit more bearish. We want to see if 277 holds. If not, we could be dipping closer to about 266. Amazon, we have to see if we hold 232. As long as it holds, we could be pushing for 235. So give this some time. Meta has resistance at 676. If we hold above this, we could try to fill this gap. If we can't, we might be dipping back down to about 660. For Microsoft, we have a double top like structure. We're going to be looking for a retest of essentially 430. So, sorry, not 434, 13. Then we'll see if we reject off that or not. I think it's going to push a bit towards this imbalance. 413.8 may maybe test in the morning. Then we'll see if we reject and just continue to fall to the low 400s. And then Google, we need to see if we get back above 202.5 to bounce. If we can't reclaim 202.5, we're watching 201 as our main support. So break 202.5, we bounce a little bit. If we can't do that and we lose 201, we're looking for a dump to 198. So it depends on which way we go. This could go either way. It's in the middle. The VIX is gapping up. We'll see if it comes down to fill this gap or not. It might just continue to run. It depends on what we get from the tariff news and factors like that. So as far as SPY goes, we're technically looking bearish. We're going to gap down, but we'll see if buyers defend or not. So please be very, very patient. Anyways, that's it for my video, guys. Watch these levels just to be safe. Just know that we have a double top right now. SPY will most likely fill its gap to 584 soon. We'll see if we get a bounce first to fill this upper gap, and then we dump, or if we just dump from here. So watch your levels just to be safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for listening. Peace out.